Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Prolifics Innovation Sandbox. I'm your host, Greg Hodgkinson. If you're new to the show, today is especially exciting as we're kicking off our third series. So keep an eye on our series calendar, as every month we'll be hosting new technology experts who are leaders in their fields. They will share their passion and what they see being the future of hot technologies in data, AI, cloud, and so much more. Your voice is an important part of the show. We'd love to have you join in the conversation by posting your questions at any time in the live chat, either just to the right or below the video feed. And don't forget to stick around towards the end for Q&A. All right, so let's meet our guest. David is Chief Cheerleader for Automation at IBM, with a great many talents that he brings to bear in spreading IBM's message on how we can all reclaim 50% of our time with intelligent automation. Hello, David.
Great to be here.
Salem, thought leader and head of business automation at Prolifics, where he helps our clients navigate and accelerate their AI-powered automation journeys. Hello, Salem.
Hello, Greg. Hello, everyone. Great to be here.
And Surabi is a software tech lead in Prolifics' engineering team, who led the development of an award-winning bot designed to help people that suffer from mental illness. Hello, Surabi.
Thanks, Greg. Hello, everyone. Great to be here.
All right, so now we're giving the three of you a warm welcome to the Innovation Sandbox. David, you're with us in the sandbox. Did you bring your spade?
Well, I'm more of a strainer guy, so I've got my strainer. Straining for the data.
Fantastic. Well, let's dig in with your strainer. So, David, I described you as Chief Cheerleader for Business Automation at IBM. Is that an accurate description of your role, and how did you end up in that position?
Not bad. Sometimes I call myself the camp counselor, too. But either way, I've had a dual career in the theater production performance in New York City for a long, long time. I ran a downtown theater. I was a stand-up at the Improv when Seinfeld was there. I emceed the first two American Comedy Awards. I've had several musicals and plays produced off-Broadway. So I've got that running. But I also got into corporate communications, corporate events, because the theatrical training helps there. And so I wrote even for IBM back in the 80s, for Cisco, for Intel, for a number of high-tech companies. And I developed a fake motivational speaker who would come out and say things like, don't put off today what you could easily put off tomorrow. And people would be writing things down, and then they'd be like, wait a minute. And then he always got more and more upset until people had to carry him off at the end. So it was, it was just a lot of fun. It allowed me to explore the boundaries of comedy within a corporate setting, because there's certain rules that you have to follow.
I will say you're the first person that we've had in the show that has any connection to Jerry Seinfeld. So I'll give you that point.
All right, good. Somebody's got to.
I was going to quickly ask you, so we're going to focus on bots today. Do you think that bots need a cheerleader to explain how they can help us without replacing us?
Well, they do. I think they do need a story. And I think that's what's happening. And as we talk about it today, we'll see what that story is. Because in different countries, in Japan, they love bots. In other countries, here in the United States, sometimes people are worried that they're going to, take my job kind of thing. And so I think it's very important how we talk about them. And that's what we'll be doing today. So
fantastic. So Salem, where is your spade?
Yeah, I'm already. It's here. I rolled out my sleeves, so certainly ready to dig in. Yeah.
All right, you're ready to dig in. I think what will be useful for us. We're going to be talking about bots today. We're talking about business automation in general, but we'll spend some time on bots. Maybe Salem, can you briefly just give us a description of what a bot is, what it does, how it delivers value, just to set the stage?
Certainly. In fact, a bot is no more than a software program, right? That actually you go and then develop it, then you deploy it so that it mimics human behavior. And depending on the extent of human behavior that it mimics, so you have what we call a simple bot that actually does copy pasting or like logging into a website and then do more of the routine task that a knowledge worker does in front of his computer. Or it can be more of a smart bot in which like it leverages AI and then it learns, it does the job, and then it excels in what it does. So two versions of bot, but in a very simple way, it's a bot that mimics a human behavior to do some routine tasks that during a day, things like that.
All right. And I guess, I mean, I doubt we'll have anyone on our show that would be confused about the fact, but I'll say it anyway. There's no physical element to a bot. They're purely software. It's software automation. And again, replicating what a human can do, in the software space. So thank you for that definition. Salem, you've been a leader in the business automation space. We worked together for many years. I'd say it's fair to say there's been a rapid pace of change in the last 5 years in business automation. Can you briefly tell us, what are the biggest changes you've seen recently in the business automation space?
Certainly. First, a new name, which is really like business automation. I think really 5 years ago, we were focusing more like on process reengineering, business process management, which are all terms that actually contribute to automation. But I think one of the biggest changes when robotic process automation, RPA, came into picture, then there is this adoption of automation as a word. So a huge change, certainly in first renaming the discipline of process reengineering to kind of mean intelligent automation as well, robotic process automation. And recently, just like as we saw huge advances in data and AI and machine learning, so we are really seeing data and process really getting together much closer, in which now data is leveraged through AI, artificial intelligence, and then data science in general to really give you those acceleration, but then also do automation the right way instead of just, I would say, doing it the old days of RPA in which you are focusing on chunks of your process. Now with AI-powered business automation, which is really the new term, now you are able really to do process engineering the correct way, in which you are able to see the process end to end and put it in phases and then really bring in the right automation in the right place at the right time as well.
Now, that's one thing I'll say, for a business leader, just, navigating the minefield of terms that come out every few years in IT in general, but I mean, definitely in this business automation area is not doing anyone any favors. I mean, Gartner's also come up with I kind of like this term or this way of thinking. They've described in their trends and future of work, they talk about AI joining the team, which I think is quite a nice way of talking about it. I mean, it's about how you highlight the efficiencies that AI can bring to a team and what kind of efficiencies that brings. And they talk about automation evolving from tools to becoming teammates. And I guess that's what you're talking about, which is this whole idea of a smart and intelligent automation. So, fundamentally, how big do you think the role and impact of AI has been in evolving business automation recently?
I think it's certainly huge because I think it gave opportunities for automation that we have never seen before. And then to your point, when you mentioned like a digital teammate, it really addressed the need of having a full digital workforce in which really you have a hybrid collaboration between bots that are smart enough to really do tasks at the functional level. You can trust them with doing tasks in which there is decision making, there are more like sophisticated tasks that they can do. And then thanks to AI, that's really AI enabled us to really get to that level. But then also it created also that possibility now of freeing humans into focusing on much more high value add tasks, and then even augmenting them with the necessary intelligence, with the necessary data so that they can be energized first in what they do and then more efficient in what they do as well. So I would say AI is the biggest thing and then the greatest thing that happened to process engineering and then business automation in the last 5 years, to your question earlier.
All right, so we got these teams of bots and humans and people, and we've got David on the sideline being a cheerleader for them all, right, David?
Well, absolutely. What we're seeing is this convergence of AI, but also the convergence of all these automation point solutions as well into some larger thing that has several names. Sometimes, you mentioned Gartner, they came up with hyper automation to describe it, where you've got RPA, but you also have workflow and you have decision management and you have capture, document processing, you have content management, many other tools all kind of working together what's interesting is we have a lot of international customers, IBM does, and I coordinate our client advisory board. And I ask them, hey, does hyper automation explain to you, does it make sense to you? And our European and Asia Pacific customers says, well, we don't really know. We don't use the word hyper much. They prefer just call it what it is, intelligent automation. So we're going to come down on the side of plain speaking and describe what it is that we're talking about in plain terms. So IBM talks about it as intelligent automation.
Yeah, and sometimes those terms and the evolution of those terms do get in the way of what we're trying to talk about. So hyper automation is an interesting one. My understanding, obviously, is high level is talking about how automation can be, and you mentioned a whole range of different types of automation, how they can be used at scale across the business, and the reason that business leaders are so interested in hyper automation, or replace it with the term intelligent automation of your choice, is business leaders need to respond to their need for growth and operational excellence. So this is not just me. This is the thinking around why this is so important. So actually, Salem, let me bring you in there. How can automation help you? So again, the business leaders are challenged to do two things: grow their businesses and then achieve operational excellence. What kind of role does business automation have to play there?
Great question. And you mentioned really one of my favorite terms, Greg, operational excellence, right? So companies use operational excellence to really take that competitive advantage. We have seen it with the Google of the world, with the Amazon of the world. Operational excellence has been, I think, a key leverage, right, that Amazon used really to take competitive advantage and into running their factories, etc. And intelligent automation is really key in any operational excellence program. First, as David mentioned, there are multiple capabilities. With process mining, you have that view of your organization. You are able to create the digital twin of your organization, a new name as well. But it gives you a way to test things, to see how you can automate, identify efficiencies. So now you have finally that discovery tool that actually allows you to plan and then select business cases that will give you the impact that you expected. Before, we didn't have that, right? There was a lot of workshops, it was subjective, but then now we have a data-driven approach in launching the correct initiative for your organization. And then the next step is, now that you are able to find the correct use cases, identify the correct pain points, you are able to impact your employee productivity. Employee productivity is key in operational excellence. You are able to make your human capital much more productive. That's one pillar of operational excellence that is covered right there. And the next thing is really the tools that you have under intelligent automation. Yes, you have bots, as you mentioned earlier, but then you do have other capabilities, such as like digital decisioning around business rules, workflow, which is streamlining and then removing wastage, following like Lean Six Sigma practices, eliminate delays, eliminate errors, and then eliminate wastage. So as you can see, when you look at it end to end, you have that dichotomy of capabilities, but then also full end-to-end capabilities that will allow you to really launch an intelligent automation initiative that will directly link it to your operational excellence goals.
So actually, I should have had David play a drum roll every time we threw in a new term, although we'd be constantly, he'd be drumming end to end in this episode. So what I heard from you is, so the process mining, I mean, that's really where you essentially lift the footprint of a process through your data in your systems, and you use that to come up with the view of what that process is. And then that's crucial to then the efforts to automate portions of that process. And then what I heard from you as well, you were saying that the automation, so whether it's bots or other automation, RPA, business automation elements, they are going to allow you to achieve, as a business leader, that growth, because you're automating the low kind of value or the non-creative jobs to free up your human capital. So overall, you can do more, which is key to growth. And you're saying service excellence is going to improve because you're codifying a lot of the service, the operation, into automation, which is going to firstly improve the outcome. And then also, again, you're freeing up the human capital. So they'll be able to spend more time doing a better job on the elements that humans can do better. So overall, that's going to give you the service excellence. So I just, in a nutshell, I think that's a very good summary that you gave us. David, I'm going to move on to you again. IBM Build a Bot competition. So IBM obviously feels so strongly about this space. You've launched this competition. Can you briefly tell us what the purpose is, what you enjoyed most about it, what impressed you the most about it?
I would love to. I put together just a couple of big pictures here to kind of help me just kind of talk through it, but we'll get right back to our conversation real soon. Let's see if we can put up that first slide. And apparently it's up. Wonderful. I'm not sure I can see it. That's okay. Hey, IBM acquired WDG Automation in 2020, which is an RPA vendor out of Brazil, and began to fold it into the automation platform. And it had a low code aspect to it. And it had the other thing that I do, my other day job is I'm the community manager for the automation virtual community. We have 23,000 members. And what a community should be doing is challenging its members and seeing what they can do. And what a wonderful experience to put that together. So since I'm not seeing the slide, I don't know exactly where I am, but that's okay. What we decided to do was put together a fund, a pool of about $20,000, and put together some criteria and see what our community could do. And so the criteria were such things as a challenge to find a solution that would help a social problem, find a solution that would help a customer that was aimed at business partners, so that they could actually do something for one of their customers, or just solve a workplace problem. Those were the three areas that you could focus on. In fact, Prolifics did one for each, which was really impressive. And we wanted to see what they could do with this low-code stuff. And it's just been so impressive what has come in. The innovation, the creativity amongst our teams. The biggest participants were really from two camps, university students and business partners. Both brought everything that they had, their idealism and their wish to solve some really interesting and serious problems in the world post-COVID. It's just a time of unprecedented disruption anyway. And so to see this kind of creativity and this kind of innovation and effort was really, really exciting. And it's really what communities should be doing, right? It is exploring the future together and coming up with new things. So that was really why we did it. And it was probably better than I could ever expect. We had more than 2,000 people participate in one way or another. We had 70 projects sort of envisioned, and 35 were submitted, and 2 of them, by Prolifics, were among our 6 winners.
So we'll come on to that next. So thank you for that, David. And it sounds like a hugely enjoyable experience. So we'll come on to some of that element as well. I'll ask you what you enjoyed most about some of the bots that you saw. Before we get onto it, I have to ask you again, David, can you give us a drum roll? Because we're now about to talk about some of the prize-winning entries.
Well, certainly. Let me start with that. Okay. Sound effects, very important. All right.
Fantastic.
That was not as clean, but I'll work on it.
Thank you, David. So, Surabi, glad to get you into the conversation. You created a fantastic entry. We're covering it first just purely because we think it's so exciting. Your bot is called Hope. It came 3rd in the competition, so congratulations.
Greg.
And I believe it's about helping the 1 in 4 that suffer from mental illness at some points. So let's say I'm suffering from mental illness. Why would I want to meet or interact with Hope? What problem is being solved?
Right. So Hope is built for solving a social cause, as we mentioned. So when we researched about the numbers, we found that 1 in 4 people suffer from mental illness at some point in their life. So the early detection and proactive action is the only way to have the better outcomes. So we have decided that we have built Hope, which is a mental assessment tool for which can review a person's mental health very quickly in a very effective manner.
Can you tell a little bit about what she does? Well, and I'm calling her she. We give our hopes, our bots a persona. So what does she actually do to achieve that outcome?
Right. So Hope is built using IBM RPA. The Hope to review a person's mental health, it asks very simple 9 questions related to their habits. The question could be like about their sleeping schedule, about their food habits, about their interaction with family. And the answer to these 9 questions are used to calculate a depression score, which is calculated using a scientifically proven formula, which is called as PHQ-9. The score is calculated for a person, and Hope highlights the person who needs immediate attention if the score is above threshold, or in case of a suicidal indication. So Hope calculates the score, highlights the data in form of report for better visualization, and send it to a concerned person so that the person can be addressed in very quickly.
All right, and I know, people are pretty dying to see what Hope looks like, because we can talk about Hope, but they'll be dying to see what that looks like. We've got some fantastic videos that you and the team created on these bots. So I think we'll probably drop some links for folks to be able to catch up and take a look at those videos, because they really, they show what you've just told us about. But given the fact that we're not going to go into those videos right now, David, can you tell us what grabbed you about Hope? Why did it stand out amongst the vast field of entrants that you had? What was most exciting for you?
Well, Sarabi and her partner Mayuri, they did an awful lot of research into, an area that maybe that they weren't experts in, but they got into, she mentioned the PHQ-9 Psychological Health Questionnaire. So this is a standard tool that organizations use. So she's right where you need to be. As you might imagine, we saw a lot of COVID-related type, let's change the world, but things about vaccination status or where to find a place to get tested. That was good, but I think that Sarabi and Mayuri's vision was bigger. It was certainly global. One of the big impacts, and they proved that in this 5-minute video that I hope you all go and look at, is that one of the outcomes of 2 years of pandemic has been a real spike in depression. So they were dealing with universal human problems and with a robot. So it really is tech for good. And that I think really impressed us. Yeah.
And I think everyone in the team loved to see what Sarabi and Mayuri had put together. And we were hugely excited that they achieved a result in the competition as well, just on the side. So good job there, Sarabi. Salem, Prolifics almost made a clean sweep of it in the competition. So your team actually created the winning entry in Teledocs. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. Thank you, David. So as David mentioned, there was like 3 categories. So really the inspiration behind Intellidocs was to make sure that we target our customers and then solve a real problem for our customers in healthcare, but then also that has a bigger impact within the United States. So this is really where so the idea was inspired through several workshops using the Prolifics famous workshop method that we leverage into taking to our customers, and then we help them solve their major problems. And the second part of the solution was really us doing the necessary research to understand the impact of prior authorizations. So this is around really healthcare insurance in the United States requiring prior authorization from doctors to render some very needed and procedures for different patients here in the United States, and then that's really where we understood some of the pain points that both these doctors, hospitals have when they fill out multiple authorization forms, but then also on the insurance side, we understood some of the pain points, the challenges they have into processing multiple documents. And thanks to AI and then intelligent automation, we leveraged the great platform, the IBM Business Automation Platform, first covering RPA and the other capabilities to address a real challenge in the industry.
Right, fantastic. Well, I struggle to find my mute button. That's perfect. And so, David, I do want to come back and ask you a little bit about what you felt about IntelliDocs, but we are going to move on to bringing in the voice of our audience. So a reminder, put your questions into the chat and we'll cover those. While we're waiting for those to come through, David, do you want to just quickly tell us what grabbed you most about IntelliDocs and the entry from Salem?
Yeah, what I like too is that it came out of customer research. It came out of asking what is the big pain points in your industry. I think they targeted an area. We looked, Salem was talking about process mining being able to identify an area where automation would have a big return. Well, you can see that very clearly in what they did, because there's a beginning and there's a middle and there's an end, and the middle is where it just was so manually intensive that if you can put some automation in there, you get from the beginning to the end much quicker, much more accurately, and that delivers real benefits for the customer. So it was just a perfect example. The other thing is it's a great example of intelligent automation, because there's decisions, there's workflow, there's capture, there's AI-powered classification and capture. It's all in there. And that was really cool to see that all of these tools, it's exactly what we're talking about. Whether you call it hyper-automation or intelligent automation, it's right there to see. And it's become a really good example. And what's really cool is they can go to any healthcare payer in the United States and they'll say, wow, you've got me started. I'm already halfway there looking at this. So I think it was just really well conceived and well built.
And I want to bring us back to a term that I forget to mention earlier. You were saying, talking about low code, David, earlier on. So the low code tooling. And I guess it's important to recognize actually that these tools are making it easy. And I guess this is one of the reasons you had the competition, is it's making it easy for anybody to contribute and start creating these kinds of automations. I want to expand on that thought if we have time, but I'm going to take a question from the chat, which is, does IntelliDoc take HIPAA into account? I guess, Salem, do you want to take that one?
Yes, it does. In fact, if you look at the IntelliDoc design, so all the platform that we're leveraging, they are HIPAA compliant. IBM Business Automation Platform is HIPAA compliant, and then also what we have is an extension of IntelliDocs. Part of processing the manual is really leveraging the IBM FileNet, and then Content Platform, which is HIPAA compliant as well.
Okay, fantastic. Now I want to expand on the thought that I had just now, which is, low code. It's reducing the barrier to entry for folks to get involved in this automation. Salem or David, how important do you think it is for business leaders to become business technologists? And by business technologists, I guess I mean non-IT folks. So they're not IT folks. They're not IT folks, but they're taking ownership for driving their business automation initiatives. How important do you see that being in the way business leaders should think about business automation?
I'll go first. I can tell you that business automation is sort of an area in IBM that's unusual, in that the end user is a combination of business and IT. It's often a committee kind of decision to buy it, but the line of business leader is just as important in that process as the IT person who's going to stand it up and run it. And a lot of our efforts are to bring the two together and to have them both sort of understand the benefits of these tools and how the business benefit, what will come out of it. Rather than a technology discussion, we should be talking about what is the business outcome we want to have this automation do for us. And so it really is a joining of business and IT, and we want to bring them together more and more. They tend to sometimes have friction between them, as anybody who deploys a lot will understand. But the more we can bring them together, I think the more successful we'll be.
So I'm sure Salem has thoughts on that, but I just want to take a question from the chat for Surabi. So Surabi, does a business need a mental health professional if they're using Hope?
Not necessarily, Greg. So Hope is built on the principles of PHQ-9, which is already a standard for calculating a mental health for a person. So we do not need a mental health professional, but a person who is at high risk, that they will get highlighted in the report for better data visualization, and that can be sent to HR or any nearby mental health expert for taking the further actions.
All right. So what Hope's doing is really helping the company look after the employees and potentially a large scale of employees, but still it's part of the team. The rest of the team needs to be the mental health professional that will actually help that individual once they've been identified. So again, it's a good example of the teamwork there. I want to, if my producer will give me enough time, put one more question in. So we've kind of talked about business leaders becoming business technologists. David, you mentioned this concept of low code. Salem, I'll direct this to you. I'm a business leader. Okay, put my business leader hats on. I want to take a leap and understand how business automation can help my growth and operational excellence targets. How would you help me get started?
Certainly. I think from an engagement perspective at Prolifix, we do have workshops, and then we can come and really have a design thinking workshop, understand your pain points. And then we help you through the journey, which capabilities you will use, and then how to get started. But then answering the question as a practitioner, I would say making sure that your discovery is successful, like process discovery is one of the things you need to ensure that your initiative is actually based on. And as David mentioned, like low code, no code tool, it all comes in how you communicate your requirement to the automation community, automation project. And certainly low code, no code gave us that leap into making sure that there is no gap on how these requirements are translated to implementation. So that's really where I see low code, no code is really bringing both groups, IT and then business together, and then have this business leader and then citizen developers as business leaders really taking part of the solution.
Yeah, and I guess going back to David's point, I mean, definitely your team, Salem, you and your team are very focused on working closely with the line of business, with business leaders in a much more closer way, more kind of fused together way than some of our, some other IT capabilities. So it's a very close relationship, and your team's very able to help that business leader get onto that pathway and then lead them along that path. Because, frankly, we've thrown all these terms, hyper automation. David, remind me, intelligent automation. There were loads of different terms. As a business leader, it just makes it impenetrable to then think, well, all I want to know is I need to focus on growth and operational excellence. You tell me how I do that. So what I'm hearing for you, Salem, is your team's focused on bridging that gap, taking those goals and then just helping a business leader get started. Okay, well, I think I'm getting the signal to wrap up. So what I'm going to do is we're going to, unfortunately, it's all we have time for this week. Love to keep continuing the discussion with you, gentlemen. But I'll just say to my guests, thank you very much for joining me today. So David, Salem, Surabi, really enjoyed the discussion. Very glad to hear that bots are playing a part in improving my health and everyone else's health out there. David, glad that you're out there being the cheerleader to continue to assist people in making sure that they understand that bots are there for good. Salem, and I love the fact that you're, understand what you and the team can do. So business leaders can take ownership for driving business automation is what I'm hearing, and that's key. And I trust you'll have a lot more of them reach out to you for you to help them get started. So thanks to you all. I'm going to turn and say thanks to our audience as well. It's been great having you along with us in the sandbox today. I will let you know that you should join us for next month's show, which is entitled How Startups Start Faster. Love the title. That's on Tuesday, May the 31st at 10 a.m. We're going to stick with the health theme and hear about how Prolifix helped an innovative new digital healthcare company get out of the startup mode and into business. Until then, final goodbye to my guests and the audience. keep well, keep innovating, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you.